Guess I should put some headphones on, huh? Actually, do I need headphones? I don't know that I'm going to listen to anything, but it looks more professional. Yes. Okay. Last week I tested out a Livestream, and this week I posted a poll on my channel just to see, like, I need ideas for how to do some kind of class. And so I'm debating, like, so I've seen people do it a couple different ways. One way is to do it on Zoom. Like, have a big group of people, and then the cool thing is you get to see the people you're interacting with, and like take questions. But Zoom is kind of, during COVID, I got like zoomed out. It was just so much. It was so many Zoom meetings, and because I work remotely, it's also like, it's just something that I kind of have a bad taste in my mouth on. So that's one option. We could do the class on Zoom. But the other thing I was thinking is, like, you guys are on YouTube. This is where my channel is. I don't really do much social media. I don't promote anything. I think I have an Instagram account, but I probably haven't logged in for, like, I don't know, 2 or 3 years. So taking it off of YouTube would be maybe not, like, there's going to be a disconnect there. But then, like, how do I deal with questions and interactions? It'd be text-based. Derek says this works. Okay, that's good. Like I said, I put a poll on my channel, and hoping to be more scientific about it than remembering comments from people. Comments are great, and that's why I'm live right now, is to get like real-time input. But yeah, if you could vote, I don't exactly know how to access it. I think it's on the community something. YouTube's kind of weird with like how they handle. I'm still learning stuff, but how they handle like posts and non-video things. So yeah. Okay. As far as like stuff I could teach you guys or talk about, I have, even though my studio's kind of a mess, I think I can move this a little bit. Yeah, excuse like the cables and weird drums. So I took the drums out because I'm not going to be doing music for a while. So I have like a little space. I think under this rug here, I'm going to build a riser that will double as like a Foley pit. Does really well run live sessions. Curtis is great. Yeah. Sundays I'm usually busy. I play drums at my church, and then I try to keep weekends for my family. So I've always wanted to know how to build a solid Foley pit. Yes. I thought about that, because I'm pretty good with like carpentry and stuff. So I might build one it would be maybe 7 feet by 5 by 7 is not very big. Yeah, I could do that. That'd be kind of cool because I could build it in my backyard. It's super rainy. It's been a really rainy spring for us, and I think Saturday we got like an inch of rain, so I'd probably wait until that let up. I don't mind working in the rain, but like with a camera or my phone, um, it would sound and look bad because, water will get on the lens and everything. Okay. Oh, you know what I haven't talked about too much is, Daniel says in-depth sound effects editing. I could go over some of that stuff today. I'm just doing this because I'm still waiting on notes for something. So I did like a little bit of not bookkeeping, but like admin type stuff here in my studio this morning. So I was like, you know what? While I'm waiting for notes on this commercial, it's easy. Just click go live and bam. So, but in depth. Okay. Whole series covering hours and hours. I could do that. I mean, I should say when I should really commit to doing a class. Uh, I can break it up into sections. So like dialogue editing, which I feel like a lot of people don't know much about. And sound effects is the sexy thing to do, but dialogue editing, like you can find more work. And I think it's actually more important than sound effects editing because you're dealing with actors' performances. But yeah, I could break it up. Dialogue, sound effects, probably not Foley because I don't do a ton of Foley, and then like mixing probably would be like kind of the categories of classes because people might not want to do all three. But for the people that do want to do all three, then I guess that gives them an opportunity to do that. Let's do okay. So just kind of general, I can talk a little bit general sound effects. Let me share screen 2 here. Actually, it's screen 3. Okay. So I used to use SoundMiner for sound effects editing, and maybe 2 or 3 years ago I switched to Soundly just because the interface was a lot cleaner. And the other thing I really like about Soundly is their cloud library. You can see this cloud right here. These are all sounds that you get like with the Soundly Pro subscription. So in the event that I don't have a sound and I don't want to pay, $500 for a library, it's great because you can just grab stuff. This also indexes the freesound.org library. You have to be careful about use because a lot of the free sound stuff requires attribution. If you see CC0, I believe you do not need to attribute even for commercial use. Yeah, Boom Mike says I was happy to make the switch to Soundly. Their sounds they're kind of hit or miss for me. Like some of them are really good, but then other ones have a lot of noise or like the mic is too far, which is good sometimes if you want it to sound like production sound, but like you still have to be careful about what sounds you're picking, and that's something I could talk about. Okay. But yeah, so the main thing I wanted to ask you guys about is just brainstorming how to run a class. So again, like I could do Zoom. The Zoom would probably be like you'd have to buy the class on the website and then it'd be scheduled. The downside with that is, if somebody's in Pakistan and they want to take the same class as somebody in Georgia, United States, there's a time difference and I want to be mindful of that. Also my time difference. Like I don't want to be coming in here at 3 a.m. when I should be dreaming about plugins that do things for you that we don't have. So yeah, it'd be kind of tough. Yeah, so Zoom I could do YouTube live. So it's, text, like you guys would be able to do text questions and I would do video responses and screen sharing. I'm debating if I do YouTube live for the class, do I like somehow make it like I can make it for members only, which would be awesome. Because they're really helping me to make more videos by just that, like the tiny bit of money that they can give to the channel. It's like it motivates me. Like I need to. make content because these people are saying, "I support your channel. I want you to keep going." So it kinda drives me to keep going, and that it would give something back to them instead of it being just for everybody. So, yeah. Um, you could make the class available on demand. I could do that. I don't know how I would do that with YouTube, maybe a private link or something on my website. Um, but yeah, recording the classes I think is a good idea. But the other thing is I could not record them, make them super exclusive, like you have to be there, and then maybe that would give people more of a reason to do it. I did look at the um analytics for maybe I could show you guys this. This is kind of cool. Cuz YouTube stuff is kind of like it's it's interesting to me. I've worked a little bit in marketing. Um, and you guys can see this, right? So here's the times when people tend to be online for my channel. And this is my time. So my time, people tend to be online basically Sunday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., which is like right now, like we're in that pocket of time. So I feel like this would be a good time. And it also then make it to where I'm not out here in the evening when I really want to be uh, like hanging out with my kids or playing Hell Let Loose on Xbox. I don't want to cut into that time too much, and nobody's online then. So yeah, this would kind of be the time I'm looking at. Self-paced recorded course is the way to go. Hmm. Yeah, I could do that. Let me just go back through some of the comments here. I might cover conforming from AAF. I've covered that a little bit with the field recorder workflow. I think in a dialogue editing video, it's probably the first one. Okay. Greetings from Germany. I was born in Germany. I was born in Germany. I speak very little German except for a few curse words I picked up from my parents. Um, okay, record the classes, make the class available. Yeah, that makes sense. To Daniel says, do whatever's convenient for me and make it live, or you can watch recorded. Karen says, can you share your post template? I have post templates on my website. I've got one free one and then a bunch you can buy. They're under $20. So yes, it is available. The good one isn't free though, because I've spent years figuring this stuff out. So um, yeah, you can go to my website. There should be a link on the video description. YouTube has member stuff. Yes, and I was thinking about making the class for members only. I think we've got like 28 members, which is not very much. But I'm extremely thankful for it because just that there's even if there was one member, it'd be like, how can I make that one person happy? Because they're, you know, they're telling me to keep going. So Vatic says 6 p.m. in France right now. Good time zone for Europe. That makes sense. People would be off of work, I assume. Boom Mike says hell let loose. Yeah, the hours spent playing that game. I know. I try to find other games that scratch the itch, and I can't. 3 to 4 hours per class per day. Gosh, that's so much time, man. I need like 10 gallons of water to keep my voice from breaking. Can you do a video on room setup, calibration, treatment? I did it a little bit in one of my mixing videos, but I could do a special video on that. I mean, I built this room kind of for that purpose, so yeah, I could do that. Oh, that's a cool idea. Jesse says pre-recorded classes that are free, but then after each class video comes out, then you have a live Q&A video, like a film festival where the director comes out at the end of the film and beats his chest and, well, here's how we made this. And yeah, I could do that. Live paid class then available. for downloading for members only. That is an excellent actually, that's such a good idea. I'm gonna write this down. Uh, neural motor. How do I do something? Pin message. Could I do that? I don't know how to I wanna give it, like, a thumbs up, but I guess I can't do that. Okay, I'm gonna write this down. This is great. Great idea. Ideas for class. Neuromoto says live paid class, paid, then free for download for members. I type with 2 fingers, and usually there's like 80% mistakes, so that's good. I'm gonna leave it there. Class ideas. Okay, this is good. Okay, I'm gonna do some stuff that's not just me asking you guys what you think about a class, because that's not useful for you. It's useful for me. Thank you guys for your ideas. Okay, so sound effects. We were talking about how I'm not going to do an in-depth one because that's going to take a lot of time. But okay, some common mistakes I see when people edit sound effects is the biggest thing. Well, okay, so either they use the wrong sounds, like the sound quality isn't good, it doesn't match picture, um, or they use way too many layers. And sometimes you have to use layers if it's a big sound or it's a complex sound, but generally speaking, it's better to just find one sound that is correct, that sounds good, and use that one sound. The reason for that is technically when you're just editing sound effects, if you're not monitoring through a bus processor, if like all your audio tracks are just going out to your main speakers, let's say you have 10 sound effects tracks and you're using all 10 for a gunshot or a punch. So you've got 10 layers stacked up. What's going to happen is because of the Pro Tools mix bus, which I believe is 32-bit, all those sounds are going to play together at the same time. It's going to be really loud, really punchy, and really impactful, but it's going to clip your main outputs. Now, when you bring that into a mix session with a limiter on a sound effects bus, all those 10 sound effects hit at the same time and they get crushed. They get squished down because of the limiter that you have. And I've mixed a ton of action sequences where the sound effects editor has like, 10 layers for each gunshot. And I just end up going through and like muting 8 of them because the 2 that are really sounding good and working together, they sound way better than adding 10 and having it just be a smush of noise. So be very specific about layers and try to just pick the right layer. If you're having to layer stuff too much and like process it and or mentally being like, this will sound good in the mix because I'll EQ, I'll compress, I'll do this, I'll do that. Generally, it's not the right sound. And so go back, scrap it, like delete all your regions or save them on X tracks and then find the right sound. Finding the right sound is the thing that takes the longest to learn because it involves a thing called auralization, Auralization, which is where you can hear something before it happens. Like you can mentally picture the sound with your ears, and then it's just a matter of like, oh, I just need to find that sound that I'm hearing. So that's something I think you either have it or you don't. You could probably learn it, but it's similar to like a painter. There's a blank canvas and they in their head they know where the mountains are going to go and the stream and they make a beautiful Thomas Kincaid. So that is super important for just kind of the philosophy of sound effects editing. Less layers, be specific, and work on hearing the sound before you go to your library, because it's easy to go to your library and be like, nope, not that, not that, not that, and do all that stuff. um I heard, oh, I have a message from somebody. Oh, somebody wants me to teach a class for their university, so I'm trying to figure out what time works for that. Okay. Yes, Gary Rydstrom is great. Um, Less is more. The other thing is less so you don't have to be so literal for action sequences with sound effects editing. Generally, you can not hit everything you see. If it's a super busy sequence, then it's usually more impactful to like clean the sounds out, like mute a bunch and just hit like specific things. Transformers, which is kind of universally, well, it's not universal. Some people love it, some people hate Transformers. But if you watch Transformers, the sound effects are very impressive and impactful. And a lot of that is because they don't Mickey Mouse the sound effects. They're picking like certain things for you to hear, and you're not hearing everything that's on screen. It's like highlighting certain mechanisms or actions for you to hear. And in doing that, it makes it easier for people who watch the sequence because they're not like blown away by the amount and number of sounds. They are impacted by like less sounds that are more specific. It kind of like creates a storyline for them to follow with just the sound effects. Um, let's see. Yeah, and then the score, that's the other thing with sound effects editing is what's the music doing? Um if the music is big and has a lot of stuff that eats up a ton of your bandwidth and headroom, then the sound effects have to be kind of almost scored with the music so that the frequencies you're using are either complementary to the music or like they just kind of stay out of the way. It's one of the hardest things, and the reason it becomes such a common problem is the music isn't often done until day 1 of the mix. So, yeah, it can be really tricky to do that. Try to get an early version of the rough score, listen to the temp score because it's gonna be in the ballpark of what they're going for, and, um, make your sound effects work with the score because then they have a chance of being played louder in the mix. If they're not working with the score, the director is just gonna say, "Turn them down." The best sequences have no score because then you can just go ham and people hear all your work. This guy wants to do, uh trying to multitask here. Rodrigo from Mexico says, "Thank you." Well, thanks for watching. Hello, Thomas. This time I didn't miss. That's good. I'm glad you're here. Okay. Prane Kara says, "What audio interface to use?" I use a extremely affordable Focusrite 18i20 V3. It was very cheap, like 500-600 bucks, maybe less than that. I don't remember. Um, yeah, I picked that one because it has enough outputs to do 7.1 if I want to. I just do 5.1. It has preamps because I do record music professionally, like for paid music, mostly film scores. So I needed enough channels to record different synthesizers, and you can see I've got a Blues Deluxe amp right there. I have drums. I took the drums down because they were taking up too much room. So yeah, that's got enough preamps for me. It's got outputs, and the nice thing about the outputs is they're grouped on or you can group them in the Focusrite control app to where the monitor level controls all 8 outputs or 10 outputs, however many it has. So yeah. Um, Ooh, how do I respond to this? Cool. Okay. Sorry if I like check out for like 5-10 seconds at a time. I'm trying to multitask. How is your work life balance as a freelancer? It's really good. I am blessed, thankful, uh, very lucky to get to spend a lot of time with my wife and kids and even see, like, friends and my parents. Um, so being a freelancer, the downside is there's stretches where you don't have a ton of work, and you kinda have to make hay while the sun shines and make sure you're getting paid a good rate when you are working. When I was doing a lot of, union stuff, a lot of union shows, which shut down, like, in August of last year, then the work-life balance wasn't so great because you're on the books for 48.6 hours a week, and you're also kind of expected to answer your emails at night. You don't really get breaks unless you clear it with your supervisor. Um, like, if it's 9 p.m. and they're like, "Hey, there's a new turnover," then you have to be like, "Okay, I'll check it out tomorrow morning." There's been times where I've had to work a 20-hour shift or something like that. So it can be difficult, but overall, compared to working a 40-hour week, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 job, it's way better. There's no comparison. Like the amount of time that I have to spend with my wife and kids. Um, so yeah, it's good as long as you can manage your own time and also learn to say no sometimes when people are like, "Hey, can you work, until 11 p.m. tonight?" So as I get older, I tend to turn more of that stuff down. But there are stretches where it's like you just have to go. You just have to, work really late hours, but it's kind of worth it because that balances out with like the times where I can build a fence in my backyard or go camping for a week. So I think for some people that works really good. For other people, they want the, you know, 9 to 5. And I've done both, but I like the freedom of running my own business. Let's see. Uh, okay. No problem. But okay. Again, sorry for multitasking. Daniel Perez, I think he just became a member. That's cool. Thank you. Uh, Marl Studios, cheaper interface with only enough outputs for 5.1. There are, I think the Mbox, it's probably Mbox Pro or something like that. I don't know if it's cheaper though. I mean, the Focusrite's really cheap. Um, I like to me that's what I tell people to get if they're looking to do 5.1. Greetings from Taiwan. Never been there, but thank you. Let's see. Are you working on The Last of Us again for season 2? I have no idea. Um, it would be cool, but I got to work on The Last of Us because they got pretty busy, like a bunch of episodes I think turned over at the same time. So I worked on 2 or 3 episodes, I think, and some of them was just parts of the episodes. I think I had like maybe 1 or 2 episodes where I did most of it. The one with the arcade, I remember that one. I think I did like most of the episode or maybe all of it. The arcade one, and then there was one with like a cult. I think they were well, no, I shouldn't do spoilers. Yeah. So yeah. I don't know. Um is Soothe 2 okay for processing dialogue? I don't use Soothe. I'm not a big fan of it. I used the first one and the latency that it created was so bad that like it affected my ability to mix. Because even on a Yukon controller, I would move the fader and like it would be 10, 12, 14 frames later the automation would appear because of the latency. So, and I just kind of don't like the way it sounds. It makes things sound kind of rubbery to me. So I tend to just go with basic, de-esser and compressor and that kind of stuff. I do use the SA2 on my dialogue bus sometimes. If the dialogue is well recorded, it doesn't need it. Let's see. Is it worth it to join MPSC? So MPSC and MPEG are two different things. MPSC is like a Shriners or like, how do I put it? Moose Club, maybe Freemason, Sound Freemasons. It's cool. It's like a professional organization. You get the little MPSC letters after your name, and they do other stuff. It seems cool. They did a free membership for a while, and a lot of people joined. I didn't. I think if you like that kind of stuff, if you like belonging to an organization, it's probably good to do. I don't see that it's gonna help me, so I try to base decisions on, is this going to be helpful? Is it gonna make me more money? Is it gonna make my work easier? Is it gonna get me more work? And the answer to most of those questions was no for doing that. So I am in the union, MPEG, the IATSE Local 700, but MPSC, no. And every time I see that, I think of the beatbox techno beat. But yeah, maybe I'll join someday. I don't know. Okay. Can you talk about how you navigate your edit or mix sessions? I did in the last live stream, but I can go over it again. Let me open Pro Tools because it's closed. And that's usually the start of a good day if I'm not just opening Pro Tools directly from starting my machine. So I will share my screen again. I have to make sure it's the right one, not the one with all my questionable activity on it. Questionable meaning reading sound forums, obviously. Navigating, I don't use a ton of macros. I've tried SoundFlow, I've tried Keyboard Maestro. I tried using, there's like some Kensington trackball stuff you can do, which if you don't have one of these, definitely get it. See that worn out clicker right there? That's for my thumb. And then you have to like open it and clean out all the finger gunk. This guy I worked with at Margarita Mix on Knights of the Old Republic. It was a video game. We were editing voiceover for it. He showed me a trick that I thought was so gross. And he's like, the trackball, like you do this and it starts to stick a little bit. Well, how you fix that is you just take the ball out and you rub it on your forehead like this. And then it's smooth again. And he was correct. But man, thinking about that and what you're putting on there, it just like, I was like, ugh. But it works. So yeah. You said you're with IATSE. Yes. I've been in the union for a couple years now, maybe 3-4 years. I've worked a long time non-union. Yeah. Okay. Navigating mix sessions. Sorry about the sidetrack on the trackball. And I know forehead grease is pretty gross. So how do I navigate my sessions? Well, I use actually, to tie it in with the Kensington, I use this a lot. And then you can do shift and let me share the screen again. So I use the scroll wheel on my trackball, and then you can do shift and you go left to right. But folder tracks is kind of the way I navigate stuff. So I have, let me make these bigger. Stem and bus, VCA, dialogue, aux. These are routing folders. So the stem and bus and VCA folders are just basic folders. This has all my deliverables and the like stem down mixes and sub mixes, and then VCAs, voltage controlled amplifiers. These are like, how would I put this in other terms? They're like kind of master faders for different groups. So I've got groups here for dialogue, PFX, music, footsteps, prop cloth, etc. And then dialogue aux. So literally all I do is just click open and close on the folders. I've got no macros. I don't have a Yukon controller to spill VCAs or any of that stuff. But generally this is fast enough for me, and a mouse and keyboard is just, to me, it's quicker to navigate. Well, maybe not quicker. It's what I know. So that's what I use. I try not to buy too much stuff because it ends up being like this Starship Enterprise of like a Stream Deck and a dock and iPads and I don't know if I want to get into that. So I've looked at things like the Raven Slate, like touchscreen things. That is really interesting to me, but all the research I've done says that they're not super responsive like mechanical faders. So this is how I navigate my sessions. I just group stuff. They're in folders and even subfolders, like sound effects aux. I've got Foley, sound effects, backgrounds, and then I've got the OMF down here. Always keep the OMF in your session because you might have to go back to something. What do you think about learning 5.1 with the home theater setup? I think that's a great idea, provided it's set up right and it's decent quality. Even if it's not, if it gets you mixing in 5.1, great. Maybe stick with like the more known brands like JBL, Klipsch, or I'm trying to think of other ones, Sony, something that you're still going to be probably spending 500 to $1,000. So, but the nice thing about it is you'd have a big knob to control volume. You'd be able to route stuff through it like a Blu-ray player or an Xbox or PlayStation. So yeah, it'd be cool. The big thing with home theater to know is that the speakers tend to be small. So they generally have bass management kind of default, where anything below maybe 120 goes to the sub. It's going to sound different if you're playing full range main speakers, which I just have JBL LSR 308s, but they go down to like 35, 40 hertz. So I can use my main speakers, almost full range. So bass management would just be the one thing to be mindful of. Okay. Bridger says, I'm hoping to move to LA soon. Any advice for building a network, getting work? Really tough time to move to LA. Things are just now starting to pick up a little bit with these shows that are being shot. And you can find information on that in the trades for like new productions and stuff like that. What worked for me, and keep in mind I did this in 2008, which seems like forever ago, is physically getting out, not emails. Like emails and phone calls are so easy to ignore, and facilities get cold called all the time from fresh off the boats, or people who are green. Like, there's, I don't know how many people moving to LA every month, but it's a lot. So you have to find a way to stand out from the crowd, and most people will send an email. They might physically bring in a resume. I tried to get very creative with how I approached studios, uh, even going so far as to illegally break into one. I don't recommend that approach because, luckily the security guy was understanding and thought it was hilarious that I was that like desperate to get my resume in front of people that I would sneak in or break in. I didn't like physically break in, but I may have like jumped a fence or, this is all hypothetical, by the way. It didn't actually happen. But yeah, getting in front of the people who make decisions, and it's kind of like the old school boomer, firm handshake and eye contact, I think is good. But you have to find a way to stand out from the unwashed masses of people moving to LA. A good reel might work. A good reel meaning showing before and after your work, not just like, hey, here's 20-second clips of stuff that I worked on. And then the other thing that can work is doing research for the companies, figuring out who the decision makers are, and then finding them, not like stalkerish, like waiting outside their house with a crowbar, but like finding them online, finding their direct emails at the company, or finding them on social media and contacting them. And be short, be respectful of their time, and also be specific. People, studios, post houses, post production studios don't hire generalists. If you say, "Hey, I do dialogue, but I also do sound effects, and I also do Foley, and I also mix, and I do sound design, and I do composing," they're going to say, "Well, thank you very much. We're going to keep your resume on file." So don't do that. You want to be a specialist. You want to not be a Swiss Army knife. You want to be one of these. You want to be a blunt instrument of World War II chaos. Um, and that's not a K bar. That's a quartermaster, by the way. And tell them, "Hey, I'm a dialogue editor. Here's some of the work I've done." Have credits, have verified IMDb credits. That's good. Um, if you're going for sound effects or sound design, you will very likely not get hired because so many people want to do that. So that's like professional level, union level stuff. Don't be afraid to take a runner job, assistant, like assistant sound editor or post production assistant, or mixed tech, any of those like entry level type jobs. But in the meantime, find the independent films that need your skills, and then just supply your skills to them. Make a sales pitch. "I'm willing to do this because I have no credits. I'll do it for this price." And then whatever you take, whether it's like union, non-union, indie, big budget, low budget, just kill it. Like give it 100%. Don't be the eye roller, jaded 50-year-old sound guy that's like, "Ugh, fine, I'll help you, but I'm gonna mail it in. I'm not gonna do a good job because I'm doing you a favor." Just attack everything you get with like 100% effort, and do your very best work, because that's what people are gonna remember. They're gonna remember the finished product, the experience of working with you, and so all those are good things to do. I had the Raven. It sucks. That's kind of what I heard. So, yeah. Destructive Punch adds a 10 millisecond crossfade. I could do that. I think I had some issues with that where the crossfades weren't great or something like that, but I'll play around with Destructive Punch. I don't think I've seen someone under 40 use a trackball until today. Wow. Uh, Interesting to hear what kind of changes in notes are common and least common for dialogue editors. Okay, if you're just working as a dialogue editor, you're not mixing, then you should get no notes, ideally, besides good job. If you're getting notes, that means you messed up and you did something wrong. Every mixer has like certain things they like to see, certain layouts they like. So once you figure that out, you really shouldn't be getting any notes. You should be getting, "Here's the next episode," or "Great work," or "The mixer really likes your tracks." Dialogue editors do not get notes unless they mess up. So common notes would be, "There's ticks. We're having to clean ticks on the stage. Please be careful about ticks. This line was out of sync by 3 frames." Um, Less processing is a big request from, not from me because I don't really process stuff when I cut, but from other editors. They'll just kill stuff with noise reduction, and it doesn't sound good. So if you're just editing, don't do noise reduction. Maybe tonal if the mixer says, "Hey, you can take out generator hums," but don't do any broadband noise reduction. Save that for the stage. You can't make those decisions until you have all the tracks in front of you. And then maybe track layout. Some mixers like boom, lav, and then boom, lav. And sorry about my messed up fingers. They're still healing from getting all crunched. So, and then other mixers like boom, 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 lav for the characters. So just figure out what layout they like. And then another note I got was longer fades. And it wasn't because what I was doing sounded bad. It's just because they were used to the other dialogue editors doing like super long, 5-second crossfades. And for me, I try to use whatever crossfade works. Sometimes it's really short and sometimes it's really long. So those are kind of the most common notes you get. Let's see. Okay, that's good. I'm having problem. Actually, am having problem while bouncing video from Pro Tools. The output comes unsynced. Don't know what's happening. Okay, so likely what's happening there, he mix, is that the video frame rate doesn't match your session frame rate. So anytime you bring in a video, you want to make sure. Let me think of what I could grab. Let's grab. I'll just grab one of my videos. Sure, why not? You don't need to hear this. This is going to be bad. Oh, it's missing a codec. Thank you, Pro Tools, for that. So just make sure that the video frame rate matches your session frame rate. Okay, this is fine. I just need to look at this. So 60 frames per second, which is actually shouldn't be 60. It should be like 59.94. Do Command 2 to bring up your session setup, and then time code rate should match the video. So this one's true 60, which is pretty rare, but just make sure this, it being a tiny bit off is bad. And I believe what happens is this FPS will turn red if it doesn't match your session, but let's try it. Time code rate, we'll change it to 48. Yeah, so that turns red right there. Oh, you need to see this. My bad. Okay, so sorry about that. Forgot to share my screen. So yeah, this video file needs to match your time code rate. And you can see if the time code rate doesn't match, it'll be red. So this is a true 60 video, and it just turns the normal color. So that's probably the problem. The other thing that could happen is your export could be not the correct sample rate. Is this actually going to let me bounce? Nothing. Ooh, maybe not. Did it freeze? Is it totally frozen? Thanks, Pro Tools. Or is it just some kind of window thing? Let's see. Nope, it's like actually frozen. Or the other thing is, yeah, maybe Pro Tools is hiding the window from me, but I'm going to force quit it anyways. Okay. Let's see. I'm in Nashville and just getting into audio post. Do you know anything about the scene here? I know there's 1 or 2 post houses there. There's a lot of music, obviously. Just do the research, find out the places that are there, and try to get in with them. When I moved back to Oregon, I tried to look up like the post houses in Portland, and they were nice, but they were pretty clear with me, like, there's not too much work up here, and they were more like protective of their local clients and everything, and they weren't rude to me, but it definitely was kind of like, oh, that's cool, we're good, like we don't need any help, um, and we're busy, we're really busy, we're working on this stuff. But, like, I think you'll find that in smaller markets that they're very protective, and if you move as an outsider, even though, like, I, lived here before, there's still that protectiveness of, like, we're gonna take care of our people and our clients, and you can just kind of stay away from that. So, try to get in with them, which can be tough too, because generally in a small market, people are gonna hold on to those jobs and not wanna give them up because they're pretty rare. So Nashville does have a little bit of a post scene, kind of like Dallas and Denver, Detroit. Like there's usually 1 or 2 shops that do like advertising work. Feature films, I don't know, maybe you'd luck out and like some country singer Brad Paisley's like, hey, I'm going to direct a film for the first time. So you could, there's stuff happening there. Okay. When faced with decisions like upgrading to Atmos for my studio, despite most projects being in stereo and 5.1, how do you approach such practical investment decisions? I'm in the same I'm in the same issue right now where I'd like to do Atmos. I can do Atmos. I've got the money to set up my studio for Atmos, but I haven't done it because clients as of yet have not been my like independent clients have not wanted to pay the extra cost for that. So, because I've told them, I've had like two films ask, "Can you do an Atmos mix?" And I've told them both, yes, but it's going to cost this much more. Um, and not just because I would have to either buy the equipment to set it up or rent an Atmos studio, but just because like it's an upgraded service. And as soon as I hit him with that, it was, nah, we're good. Just 5.1 is fine. So when you get to the point where people are asking for something and they're willing to pay more for it, then that's the time to upgrade. And similarly with things that maybe people aren't asking for, but plugins or uh, hardware, a control surface for mixing, wait until something is like a roadblock and then pay for it. So don't just buy stuff to buy it, like because you want to feel good about yourself or feel like your studio is professional and fancy. It's like buying like a U47 or a U67. Are you buying it just to have it in your mic locker so that you can say, "Well, I'm a real studio because look at the tools that I have." Or are you buying it because you actually need it? If you actually need it, then yeah, get it. But if you don't actually need it and it's just for like basically a dick measuring contest, then don't do it because you're not making more money off of it. It's literally to feed your ego. So, yeah. So that's kind of my any upgrades I think about that. Do I have something that works? If the answer is no, then it's like, well, would this save me money? Would it make me more money? Could I charge more for it? Would I get more clients? Would I get better paying clients? Would it allow me to spend more time with my family? If it doesn't answer yes to those, then I generally will not spend money on it because it's just financially irresponsible. Um, okay. Who do you typically find as decision maker when contacting companies? Uh, for okay, so for big like Warner Brothers, Formosa, Sony, like all those like real like big company studios where they have a post production department. The decision maker for those tends to be a combination of the supervising sound editors, multiple ones, which work on projects, at the studio. And then also there's usually a sound editorial coordinator, or I think there's probably a sound mixing coordinator too. But because I'm classified as an editor and I work as a sound editor on union stuff, I only deal with the editorial coordinators. They're the ones who kind of like pick people, like, hey, we need somebody for this project. Bam, pick you up, place you here. The other thing that can happen is the supervising sound editors, they have crews. And so they have their core team that they work with on like all the different movies. And so when they get a show, they'll just be like, hey, I got this show coming in. I want you to edit sound effects or I want you to edit dialogue. And then they kind of pull you along with them as they go through their career. Getting in with the supervising sound editors can be really tough. Um, but the main thing is like, are you reliable? Do you do good work? Um, what else? Are you good? Are you easy to work with? Those are the things they look for. Obviously, your skills have to be at a very high level to work on, um, like the top big budget projects. If you're just starting out, which a lot of you are more like entry level to intermediate, probably some of you are advanced, but like the beginning first 5 years of your career, I would what I did is I found my way into independent post houses. I worked at one that wasn't independent in Hollywood, but the better career opportunities for me were in the smaller post production places. And there you want to find what's called the sound supervisor. Or sometimes it's the owner. Sometimes a re-recording mixer owns the company, and so finding them would be the way to go. But it's huge. There's huge gates and barriers to like getting past the, stay away from me. Like I don't want to deal with cold calls. So that's why earlier I said you have to be creative when approaching them because they get 5, 10, 20, 50 emails a day of, "Hey, I just graduated. I want to work with you," or "Here's my reel," or "Here's my IMDb." And it's just they just ignore them for the most part. Some of them will be nice and answer, but they generally have their crew. And if you're in the right place at the right time, maybe they'll give you a shot. You get that one shot, and if you don't nail it and knock it out of the park, then they'll just never call you again. Um, okay. Who's this? I'm not sure if I want to take that call. I'm gonna let him leave me a voicemail because we're almost at like the hour mark. So, yeah. Okay. So let's see. How do you think the market is in New York? Probably smaller, probably a little more insulated compared to LA just because of a little bit of the cultural difference. For indie clients, do you work with other sound editors? Yes. Generally, I do. I'll usually hire out sound effects or Foley, and I'll do the dialogue edit, and then I'll mix everything. But there's some clients where I do everything. It just takes a lot longer. Do you have a preference between working freelance and working in a post house? Well, I can't work in a post house because I live 1,000 miles away from any real post house. I did really like it. It's the fastest way to build your skills up. Um, to get some stability. I prefer being freelance. That's just me. Can you share your experience working on John Wick? What did you do? How much time did you have? Um, so I worked on John Wick for I think it was either last year or the year before. It was awesome. It was probably the best experience I've had. Um, and it was a pretty big sound crew. I was a dialogue editor, but there wasn't much dialogue, so it was really turned into production sound editor. Like the fights, they rolled sound on all the fights. The sound was pretty good. Um, and Mark Steckinger, who was the supervising sound editor, he, told me like we want to keep everything we can and even like add some stuff from the production rolls just because if the fight sequences are grounded in production sound, if you have like the stick hits and the grunts and the shuffling, whatever you add in the sound effects edit will just amplify the reality of it versus like let's take all the production sound out and add stuff. So like especially the hand-to-hand combat sequences, um that was like I spent a lot of time editing like impacts and stuff from production sound, like not adding anything from library, just here's what they recorded on set, and then the rhythm of like where the hits happened. And then there's some dialogue, like, and it was all it was mostly shot on location. There was some big like sets that they built, obviously for some of the scenes, but like they shot all over the world, and so there was a lot of different uh, environmental things to deal with. Like they shot in a real subway with a real underground train, and it was less about like how do we remove all this stuff, and it was more about like how do we make this work in the scenes. Like, yeah, okay, there's a train coming into the shot behind Lawrence Fishburne. I'll cut an alt for that, but they like the performance of the sound with the shot with the train in it, and we hear the train. So now how do I get the edit of that train to be natural towards, like it's just happening and it's like part of the scene. And so I ended up editing, I think over a third of the film, the production sound, and it was a long movie. It was, I think, almost 3 hours long. So we had, I think, 3 or 4 dialogue, production sound editors, bunch of sound effects editors. But mostly I dealt with Mark and then Paul. There was 2 Pauls that were kinda like helped me figure out like the loop group ADR and that kind of stuff. There wasn't a ton of production replacement ADR. Um, it was a handful of lines for like all the sections I worked on. But I had plenty of time for it. I think I worked on it for 6 or 8 weeks maybe. It might have been less than that. But it was a good experience. Are you rural and far away from major cities? Yep, I am. Do you need to be located in California to get work? No, I don't. Do you have any idea about noise reduction for film camera noise? Yes. Early in my career, we shot on 35, or I had to edit things that were shot on 35, and some of the mags would just be noisy. Cedar is the best thing for that. I think Cedar was like made kind of with that in mind. Um, yeah, it's tough because there's like a lower frequency element and then there's like the ticking of the gears. So Cedar is good for that. The declicker and isotope is generally pretty good too. For final approval on a mix, how does the client listen if they aren't on a stage or treated listening environment? Let's see. Sometimes they're on headphones. A lot of the times they're on headphones, but it's best to get them to your studio or to a dub stage to listen in a treated environment. I've helped people set up stuff. I've helped them set up Premiere with a 5.1 audio receiver, which has been kind of cool. So that's an option too, but good headphones are kind of what I recommend. All right, I think I'm gonna wrap it up in like 3 minutes or so. So, what else can I talk about? Let me see if there's any questions I didn't answer. Background editing. I love editing backgrounds. They're so fun. Um, a lot of it is like using your imagination. Uh, Building a network, we talked about that. Do you really open every clip in RX on shows like these? Yes. Yeah. I do. Pretty much every show I've done, I have no audio suite plugins open except for Isotope RX Connect. That doesn't mean I have to process every clip. Some of the clips are fine and you just leave them as is, like you don't have to do anything. But generally there's some minor issue with each clip. Let's see. Thank you guys for saying thank you for the Q&A. That makes me think I should just maybe on Monday mornings do this if I don't have stuff I have to be on the clock for. This is a good question. How do Hollywood films sound loud but still have -27 LKFS? It's because that's a dialogue gated measurement. So whatever meter you're using to measure will kind of intelligently look for dialogue. And then the sound effects and music will be blasting. And I hate that. I hate watching something and it's like, here's a 5-minute dialogue scene at -27. And then here's a car chase at -4. And then it goes back down. That works in a cinema. It doesn't work at your house. Is Viator any good? I need to look that up. What is Viator? Viator. It says it's a municipality of Almeria province, or sorry, Almeria province in the autonomous community of Andalusia, España. Sure, sounds good, man. Q&As are helpful. Good. Glad to help. Let's say 30 seconds and I'll be off of here to listen to this voicemail. A denoiser. I didn't find it. Neuromoto, I searched for that, and this is what oh, let me type in okay, noise reduction. We'll try this. Oh, there it is. Viator DSP. One knob. I don't generally like one knobbers, so I don't know. Haven't tried it. I can't say it's good or bad. And you name a fair price. So if it's $2 or €2, I'd say go for it. Have you tried the new AI dialogue plugin called Hush? Nope. Do you use SoundFlow at all? Nope. I tried it. Didn't get on with it. I didn't like. I know I would get faster using SoundFlow if I just spent the time learning it, but as I've said in other videos, I don't need to be any faster right now. Uh, I actually need to be slower. So yeah, I'm trying to like sit back in my chair a little bit more and like think about things instead of just like machine gun, everything robotically. Because uh, an AI could easily take my job if I'm just a button puncher, and I'm not thinking about stuff. I'm gonna be replaced, which is fine. But I'd rather like be thoughtful about things and take my time with them. Sometimes I can't, but I'm fast enough where the jobs where I have to be fast, I can just go. I can just take off the rev limiter and go full bore. Um. Oh, Lucas asked about other DAWs, other digital audio workstations. Use what you know. If you're working by yourself in a vacuum, you can use iMovie, you could use GarageBand, you can uh, run an Abacus. Like, it doesn't matter. If you're going to work with other people, then you have to use the DAW that they use. And in the US, it's Pro Tools. I'm pretty sure in the UK it's Pro Tools. In India, I know it's Pro Tools. Australia, it's Pro Tools. Um, in other countries, they might use Nuendo or Fairlight or Reaper, and that's fine. Use what you have. Yeah, Yukon is helpful. I like the automation accuracy on Yukon way better, but I don't know if I want to. Like, people aren't paying me for Yukon. They don't care what I use. They just care if the end result sounds good, and I'm able to meet those needs with what I have, which is kind of my motto when buying stuff. Can I do the work? Yes. Then do I need to upgrade? Not yet. Once I cannot do the work or there's an impediment to the work, um, or something's broken, then I'll upgrade it. But you can easily get into the habit of spending so much money that you're not making any profit, and having stuff like QuickBooks to monitor, track your spending and track your income to give you like not gross revenue, but net, like profitability. If you're running your own place, is super important. Because I see people be like, "Hey, look what I just copped! I got the new Escorpion Mode V223A, and this AI noise reduction is a game changer, and it's also a control surface. You touch the claws right here, and it'll do all kinds of pre-mixing for you." And it's like, this only cost me $1,000. It's totally fine. And then I look their credits up, and they're not working on stuff that probably pays what they're spending. Like, are you making money on this, or are you just is it a hobby for you to dump money into tools? And the best tool you can have is not your control surface or your Pro Tools or your Soundly or your plugins or monitors or even a well-tuned room. The best tool you have it's your brain, and it's being able to make decisions and help people tell a story. So that's kind of my mantra on stuff, is focusing on telling the story, and the tools can very easily get in the way of that, and they can actually take away from the story if you're using them too much. You can use too much noise reduction, and it's like, yeah, that sounds really clean, but it doesn't sound warm, or it doesn't sound pleasant, or it doesn't sound human. So just be mindful of all that stuff. Okay. A couple more, and then I'm gonna get off here. Which you said you don't do noise reduction in the edit. Well, boom, yes, of course. But lav, you kind of have to reduce lavs many times. No, otherwise you hear the noise drop. It just depends. If a well-placed lav will need no noise reduction. It's gonna be quiet as a church mouse. If it's not well placed, or the fabric is the wrong kind, if it's polyester and not, cotton, then yeah, you'll have to take some of the cloth noise out. But I generally don't do like a blanket, de-rustle on a whole clip. I'll go through and actually find like, here's the cloth noise and here's the cloth noise, and I'll just reduce those instead of saying, I'll take this whole clip, and even though there's cloth noise in 2 spots, I'm just gonna de-rustle the whole thing. Well, then you're hurting the stuff that is clean, the stuff that doesn't need any noise reduction. So I'm specific and surgical with taking stuff out instead of just, bam, de-rustle, de-rustle, decrackle. Like all that stuff just takes away from the clarity. What stems are delivered to the stage? Pro Tool session. Okay, plug-in jockeying. Yep, that's right. Okay, that's it, guys. Thank you so much for joining me again. I'll try to do this once a week if I have time. And what can I ask you? If you can, go to the my page in the community tab and vote in the poll how you'd like to do classes. Because that I'm going to use that more than this chat with you guys for being scientific about how I run them. And I'll try to start that up. No promises, but in the next 2 weeks. So yeah, keep an eye out for that. I'll probably also send an email. Some people have they're on like an email list that I have, and I'll try to like send out a reminder when I finally figure out like, here's the date and here's how I'm going to do it. But definitely vote on that poll. And I hope you guys have a good week. It's Monday, so go make some money, spend time with your family, have a good week, and I'll try to check back in with you guys next week. So I will see you then. Bye bye.